I have previously described the Thunderbolts as the best of Marvel's worst, and the movie's reception does bear that out. Alas, that still means Thunderbolts fits into the bad Marvel category, and the movie's opening weekend only serves to demonstrate just how badly the Marvel brand has been damaged. Let's dive in. While the final numbers aren't in at the time of making this video, Thunderbolts looks set to open in the 76 million vicinity in its domestic opening weekend. While that may sound good, and if it were almost any other movie from almost any other studio, it would have been, but for an MCU project, it's nothing to write home about. Never mind that Captain America Brave New World opened to 88 million in its 3-day opening weekend, which was also really bad by the way. The perhaps more relevant comparisons here are Black Widow, which opened a tad higher than Thunderbolts at 80 million, and The Eternals, which opened a tad lower at 71 million. Both of those were flops to be sure, yet both of those had the excuse that they opened 4 years ago, as the world was still reeling after the lockdowns. And now, years later, Thunderbolts is opening in much the same basic range as those. That right there is yet another indication in a long line of many indications that Marvel is a brand in a significant state of decline. Something which, if anything, makes matters worse is that the various audience polls suggests good word of mouth, with Deadline Hollywood reporting, "What Thunderbolts has going for itself are its exits." Audiences gave it a solid A- as compared to the B- they smacked Captain America Brave New World with. And the Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan, David Harbour, Wyatt Russell, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Hannah John Kamen and Geraldine Wiswanathan-led movie has a great 71% definite recommend on post-track. All of that bodes well for this pick holding in the summer to come. That Park Place also has some observations, writing, "As of opening weekend, Thunderbolts holds a critic score of 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. That would put it in the upper tier of post-Endgame Marvel films, or as I like to put it, the best of the worst." But even more telling is the reaction from audiences. 94% all audiences score, 95% verified audience score. Personally, I can only imagine that audience standards must have been lowered over the last few years here, or that maybe, just maybe, the villain essentially being depression and mental illness resonated with a great many people, which, if you think about it, is hardly surprising given TikTok and some other social media's propensity for actively promoting mental illness. Maybe more problems should be overcome with a group hug. Be that as it may. Point is, on paper, the movie has a positive reception. If that indeed is the case, if this paper isn't lying, then that should result in a modest second weekend drop at the box office. So we'll see how the movie holds up in the next few weeks here, but the bigger issue is that a movie with this kind of reportedly positive reception didn't grow even more on Saturday and Sunday. After the positive reactions had 2 days to spread, yet the box office didn't really tick upwards in any meaningful way, something which was par for the course and the rule rather than the exception for MCU movies only a decade ago, back when opening weekend projections would be revised upwards several times over the course of that opening weekend. In the case of Thunderbolts though, despite these reportedly positive views on the movie, that wasn't really reflected in the box office, which, if we take those results for granted, suggests a major loss of faith in the Marvel brand, and that shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. As has been well documented by ourselves and many of our peers, in trying to become more accessible to a wider range of female and more diverse audiences around the world, the MCU was creatively compromised, and rather than ending up more inclusive, it ended up being exclusionary, as in, it excluded the majority audience and its own built-in audience, all in the service of a mythic modern audience that doesn't exist. The one saving grace for this movie is that insofar as we know, there were no major reshoots. Yes, there have been reports that the decision to kill off Taskmaster, oops, spoiler alert, came late in the game, which meant that character's removal from a number of already filmed scenes. But there were no major reshoots like there were with that other disaster that was Captain America: Brave New World, a movie which was practically reshot in full 3 times over. For the Thunderbolts, this lack of extensive reshoots means the movie came in at, well, still a pretty hefty price tag for your average movie, but still, it came in at a modest price by modern MCU Frankensteinian abomination standards. Which means that if it does end up losing money, it won't lose much. And there is even an outside chance it might actually net a tiny profit, which is rare for the MCU these days. Case in point. Things are so bad that in order to make a season 2 of Hawkeye, you know, the Disney Plus series that no one saw, the powers that be wanted to cut Jeremy Renner's salary in half, even if he got a bigger role.
They asked me to do a season 2, and they offered me half the money. I'm like, wow, it's going to take me twice the amount of work for half the amount of money, and so 8 months of my time, essentially, and to do it for half the amount. I'm like, I'm sorry. Why? Did you think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over? Maybe that's why you want to pay me half of what I made on the first season? And this is not Marvel, mind you. This is like this Disney, not even really Disney. It's just the penny pinchers, the accountants. I told them to go fly a kite. I mean, just at the insult offer. And we didn't see eye to eye on that. And sadly, and I still love the character. I still love to do it. But I had to defend myself. I didn't ask for any more money, mind you, right? It's just payment I made the first season. So it was a little disheartening that didn't happen, but that's fine. I'm happy to let that go because my body's probably thanking me, time and time again that I'm not doing it right now. But we'll see.
To be clear, the penny pinchers may very well have been the ones that told the powers that be to cut Renner's pay in half, but it was the powers that be that told him. Renner is just trying to be diplomatic here, so he can still come back for other things. And obviously, and some would say luckily, there is no Hawkeye Season 2. But that's indicative of how bad things are with the MCU now. The massive audience that used to show up regularly like clockwork isn't there anymore, and even reportedly good word of mouth couldn't elevate Thunderbolts in its opening weekend. And from everything I've heard, of all the Marvel projects which are already in the can and awaiting release over the course of the rest of this year, Thunderbolts was the best, and not by a small margin. That does not bode well for the future of the MCU, even for Avengers Doomsday. Because when this is all the excitement the MCU can muster now, 1 year before that movie, how is it going to perform? You tell me what you think in the comments.